Hello, my name is Anna. Welcome or welcome back. Get yourself some nice tea and coffee, get cozy, settle in, and let's talk about romance books. I am not really a huge romance reader. I usually read fantasy or science fiction and the occasional horror or romantasy or general fiction. I don't think I have been able to find one or more romance books that would have really got me into the genre and into looking more into the genre and exploring all the subgenres that exist within the romance sphere. Honestly, maybe I just haven't managed to find the right books yet because I will admit the ones that I've tried recently in the last couple of years were all kind of book talk or booktube finds, and I don't think I managed to find the ones that really match my taste as well. Right now we are past the Christmas season, all the busyness has passed, and the January blues have definitely kicked in for me. And usually one of the things that I use to get into the Christmas mood is just watching bad romantic Christmas movies. So I thought, why not take this time and try to get into the romance genre a bit more? I am going to go on a little trip, and of course I'm going to try to read as much as possible, and I'm going to bring a pile of books with me. And I'm going to start with Ladies in Hating by Alexandra Vasti, which is a gothic, sapphic, and Regency romance. I have finished Ladies in Hating. It is a Victorian romance with a creepy old manor, a ghost, some family drama, intergenerational family trauma, looking for a lost heir, looking for a lost treasure, reading through remainders of old romantic letters and putting together pieces of the past. So honestly, what is not to love there? And all of this is focusing a lot on strong and fiercely independent female characters and their relationships with each other, not just romantic, but also as friends, as family members, and strong female characters that also have fought for and fiercely protect their own gained independence. All of these storylines were balanced in a nice way, and by the end of the book they were also converging into one coherent storyline. This book is a Victorian romance which follows two Gothic novelists, Georgiana and Kat. The novel starts with Georgiana realizing that there is a similarity between their recent books, and she sets out to uncover the identity of her rival. And her rival turns out to be Kat, her family's used to be butler's daughter, who she also had a crush on when she was a teenager. So this puts a wrench in her plans, and this already creates that tension in the very beginning of the book. And then the plot thickens when they both find themselves researching the secrets of the same Gothic haunted mansion. Neither of them are perfect. Both of them have their own demons that they are grappling with, and I feel like that makes them very real. By the end of the story, both of them go through character development, and both of them learn something new about themselves and also discover how to deal with their demons better. But at the same time, I felt like the book remained realistic because nothing is like magically resolved. Like their trauma is not magically gone, their demons are not magically gone, their love doesn't magically cure all of their ailments and problems, and their issue still remains something to be dealt with, but something that they are dealing with together and through communication. The love story in this book is a queer love story, the love between Kat and Georgiana. And I felt that that story was shown in a very lovely, respectful, and multifaceted way. Their love was passionate, and there was yearning, and there was tension from basically page one, but they also had this tenderness and understanding and communication. There are various representations of both straight and queer romances, and also different forms of love. We see familiar love, we see the love between members of a found family, we see love between very close friendships, and with a particular focus on close female friendships, which I also especially appreciated. This book is also spicy. There are 3 explicitly spicy scenes in it, but I felt that they were all handled respectfully, and they were all very passionate and tender, and great descriptions of also communicating and vulnerability. The one minor point that I would have, and I really think that this is preference, but like I said, there were 3 spicy scenes in this book, and I felt that for a book that is like, 300 pages? Yeah, a little bit over 300 pages. That was a bit much for me, and the scenes were a bit close together. So by the time we got to the 3rd one, I found myself flipping through a bit faster, or kind of glossing over it a little bit faster. But I feel like that was more my preference, and I was also just really enjoying the mystery, the story of it, and I wanted to get back to it, honestly. And I'm not going to fault the book for this, because I think that all of those scenes, like all 3 spicy scenes, had their own space in the story. So the first one was the culmination of their yearning and their passion for each other, and then the second one was getting closer to each other and more intimate and slower and getting to know each other. And the third one was a good old-fashioned makeup sex. So I felt that all 3 of those had a space and a good role in the story. So that's why I'm saying I'm not faulting the book for it. This is a personal preference. And honestly, I found myself drifting through these scenes mostly because I wanted to get back to the story, and I really did enjoy the story. And also I'm trying my best to be detailed and break it down here, but it's a haunted Gothic manor. What is there not to love? I haven't had the chance to record much recently, so there's a lot of books to talk about. After I finished Ladies in Hating, I read The Christmas Tree Farm, which is the 3rd installment in the Dream Harbor series by Laurie Gilmore. I have already read the first 2 books in this series, The Pumpkin Spice Cafe and The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. And after those 2 books, my expectations for this one were honestly pretty low. But this book has ended up upending my expectations, and honestly, I enjoyed this more than I thought I would, and kind of more than I am willing to admit to myself. The book follows Kira, who has just moved to Dream Harbor and has reopened the town's Christmas tree farm against her own wishes because, of course, she hates Christmas. The other character is Bennett, who is on vacation at the town, and they end up getting stuck together at the Christmas tree farm in a snowstorm, and feelings ensue. This book is essentially a Hallmark movie, which may actually explain why I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, because I have one Christmas time guilty pleasure, and that is shitty Hallmark movies. Honestly, for years now, I have been struggling a little bit with getting into the Christmas spirit and this having this romantic, warm feeling that everyone seems to have around Christmas time, because I cannot help but notice all the overconsumption and the consumerization, if that word even exists, of Christmas. So I have been having a harder and harder time to feel that holiday spirit that all the songs blaring at you from literally all the speakers in the world try to tell you to feel. After having read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, my expectations were pretty low because I really did not enjoy that book. I thought that the miscommunication between the two main characters in The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore was way too much for me, and I thought that most of their problems could have just been resolved by just speaking out loud, basically. All the thoughts that were running through their heads and the thoughts that were described in the book, they could have just been said out loud, and that would have shortened a 300-page book into approximately 40. So after that book, I think one of the main reasons I enjoyed this one more was that the two main characters actually talk to each other. Before getting more intimate, Bennett and Kira actually talk to each other and actually take the time to get to know each other, to have some exchanges, also outside of just the two of them, but in a social setting as well, to get to know each other's trigger points and to get to know each other's problems and to get to know each other's personalities. They talk about their own issues, and also, more importantly, what I enjoyed is before they get into a casual, intimate relationship, they discuss that it would be a casual, intimate relationship, even if their feelings are more complicated and that is not actually what should be happening based on their feelings, but at least they talk about it and establish a common understanding of the relationship instead of a really vague, will they, won't they, maybe, I cannot understand what he's thinking, I cannot understand what she's thinking, what if she's leaving me kind of way that was very prominent in the previous book, The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. I particularly appreciated that the spicy scenes in the book were kept light and they were not the main focus of the connection between Kira and Bennett. This, of course, was not a perfect book. It is not particularly well written, it is not extremely eloquent, and it did have some tropes that are very typical of Hallmark style movies, like Kira, after opening her Christmas tree farm and after buying the property, she apparently has very little money left over and doesn't have enough money to fix the heating system of the old house that she just bought, and only has money to heat one room. So of course they end up getting stuck together in one room because she has a fireplace there and they end up cozying up romantically in front of the fireplace. Never mind that the electricity is working perfectly in the whole house and it is enough to even power fairy lights all around the Christmas farm, so she could have just bought a bunch of electric space heaters. Also about her having no money after having bought the farm, the math wasn't really mathing for me, because after she opens the farm, she hires 3, 4, or even 5 people to help her out as employees, and she also pays them. So how does that make sense that you don't really have money for food or for an extra space heater or two, but you can pay 4 people to help out at your farm? If you go into this book not expecting high-level literature and willing to suspend your disbelief a little bit and just really enjoy a Hallmark movie in book form, which is also Laurie Gilmore's intention according to her author's note, then you're going to have a pretty good time with this. After finishing The Christmas Tree Farm, I was still in the romance mood and I still wanted to read more. So I finally picked up Atmosphere, which I've had since it came out some like midway through last year, but I haven't got to it yet. I really enjoyed this book. This book wrecked me in the best way possible. I did not expect it to. It has been quite a long time since I had been so deeply emotionally affected by a book, and it honestly really caught me by surprise. Atmosphere is about a group of astronaut candidates and then eventually astronauts, and we follow Joan Goodwin, who is the main character of the story, as she transitions from a university astrophysics professor to an astronaut candidate and then to an astronaut. Putting aside the romance for a bit, in this book, I really enjoyed the exploration of what it meant to be a woman in the 80s in a high-pressure, high-performance work environment, and I feel like it still resonates today. I really enjoyed the ways the book described each female astronaut candidate trying to define and achieve success, and I think the approach of the book in this sense is really nice because instead of the super overused girl boss and main character energy rhetoric that we keep seeing in media and on socials a lot now, this book focuses on imperfect women. Imperfect, but still powerful and capable and knowledgeable and experts in their own fields. The book also goes beyond the workplace and it explores different aspects of womanhood and different ways of surviving as a woman in the 80s. So we get a contrast between our main character, Joan, who is a very accomplished woman, a university professor, has a doctorate and then an astronaut, and her sister, Barbara, who dropped out of university because she had a child, and now her main goal in life seems to be to find a husband to take care of her. I did like the storyline of exploring the relationship between Joan and Barbara, the two sisters and their different worldviews, but I just wanted to slap her sister through the pages of the book. She is so annoying. And then we, of course, get to the romance between Joan, our main character, and Vanessa, another astronaut candidate / astronaut later on, which is, of course, a major part of this book. The romance sometimes did get a little bit too saccharine and a bit too flowery for me. I felt like the book was really trying to make me feel things and was really trying to hammer home the emotions that these two women were feeling towards each other and the exploration of their relationship and Joan figuring out who she was and who she loved. In the end, at some points in the story, it just started to feel like the book was really trying to hammer these emotions in place so that it could just crush them. It kind of worked. When I finished this book, I was crying and I was an emotional wreck and I was quite deeply impacted and didn't pick up another book for days because I was sitting with that feeling that this book left me with. But I also felt like this book could have trusted its characters a little bit more. The characters of Vanessa and Joan are quite well developed. They have clear motivations, clear traumas and struggles and things that they are working through, and their relationship is described in quite a beautiful way. So I thought that since the character and the relationship is good, then the book could have trusted those characters and the relationship to carry the emotions until the culmination of the story at the very end. And the final side note, reading about the space program in the 80s was super interesting. I don't know much about it, so I, of course, can't judge how accurate it is, but from what I read here and also from other people's reviews, it seems like Taylor Jenkins Reid has done her research on it, and it really does show. After I finished Atmosphere, like I said, it really left a deep emotional impact, and I partly felt like it ended very abruptly and there was nothing at the end of the book to bring me down from that emotional high. Maybe that was also the intention. And I really wasn't sure about what I wanted to read next. And at the same time, the first part of Bridgerton season 4 came out, and I of course had to sit down on a Sunday and basically just binge the whole thing. I decided to just read the book that season 4 was based on. So that is An Offer from a Gentleman, which is, I think, book 3 in the Bridgerton series. I had already read the first 2 books in the Bridgerton series, so that is Daphne's story and Anthony's story. I read those books when the series first came out. I even bought the entire series because it was just discounted and I just put it on my e-reader. And since Netflix is being super annoying and releasing things in parts, I really wanted to know what happens, so I just decided to read An Offer from a Gentleman. Honestly, this book was alright. I think we can agree, or I think it is not going to be a very controversial opinion that the Bridgerton books are not particularly well written either. They are also not high literature, and their main value is in entertainment. I was thinking about this honestly, the feeling that these books evoke in me, because they are super easy to read. I breeze through them, and they are technically not short books. I think they're like 300 or 400 pages long. So I really had no reason to breeze through them this fast. But I was thinking about the feeling that they evoked in me and how it felt to read them. And I arrived at the conclusion that it feels like reading fanfiction, but not the kind of fanfiction where the author is apologizing for their English being not so good, but then delivering a devastatingly beautiful love story to you that has you hooked to your seat and not being able to move and read through the night. But the kind of fanfiction that you read when you're tired. Something light and easy and super digestible, where your primary purpose is not really to get inspired or have something really have an added value to your life, but something that is just distracting. And that was my feeling from reading the Bridgerton books so far, including An Offer from a Gentleman. And this book was all right. I was happy to know how Benedict's and Sophie's story unfolds. Finally, I had to satisfy my curiosity after the cut-in-half season. Even though many things in the story were really plot convenient and some other things were problematic and some other things were pretty frustrating. Like the whole thing with Benedict not recognizing Sophie when they meet for the second time, that actually makes sense. It makes more sense in the book because years pass between their first and their second meeting, but that doesn't mean that Benedict is not being an idiot throughout the majority of the story. I found their dynamic to be quite problematic. There is some forceful behavior there. Benedict really doesn't respect Sophie's boundaries in this story, even though she keeps drawing those boundaries several times, one after another, and he just plows through as if they didn't exist. And he only recognizes his faults at the very end of the story, which honestly felt like an afterthought of, oh, here's your happy ending, and by the way, I am sorry for all of these things that I did wrong in our early relationship. But yeah, that really didn't work for me. So I cannot overlook the problematic parts of the story. It was entertaining. Now, after reading An Offer from a Gentleman, you would be thinking, okay, you didn't enjoy this book that much. You thought it was fine, but just entertainment. So you would move on to some other things, right? Right? No! I decided to read another Bridgerton book. Listen. In my defense, it is January and the weather sucks and it's just gray outside and seasonal depression is real. So whatever, I was reading a light story and all I wanted at that moment was another light story that I could breeze through within a day. And I felt like I was in a bit of a slump. So I decided to read Eloise's story, which is called To Sir Philip with Love. I know that that's not the order of the books, that Eloise's story is the 5th book in the series, but Colin annoys me immensely. So I don't really feel the willingness to read his book at the moment. Maybe in the future sometime, but yeah, I really wasn't interested, so I skipped ahead. I actually enjoyed To Sir Philip with Love more than I enjoyed Benedict's and Sophie's story, An Offer from a Gentleman. Even if it still has some of the signature Bridgerton problematic things, what is constant even? I like that this book was slower, more focused on the characters, and more focused on Eloise and Sir Philip discovering the limits of their thinking and updating their views and eventually matching each other and becoming closer to each other and understanding each other more. It is not necessarily well executed. However, I still liked Eloise and Philip exploring their own nature and their experiences and how those experiences impact their lives and their thinking and their opinions and how they relate to each other and how they are trying to approach their relationship. After finishing To Sir Philip with Love, I was finally ready to read something of more substance. And I have actually been reading this book since I started recording for this video, so since Ladies in Hating, and I have been very much pacing it out because I feel like it merits a slow read. And that is All About Love by Bell Hooks. I have been tabbing this book so heavily, basically every page, because I can just find snippets and paragraphs so easily that I want to remember. I basically want to remember the entire book later. Even though it is a read in progress, I want to talk about this book now because I feel like this video would never be finished if I didn't, because I want to take my time with this. This is a dense book of Bell Hooks' own exploration and commentary on love, lovelessness, and how our society relates to love, defines love, or more accurately, doesn't define love, and what it means to love, what are the different aspects of love, not just romantic love, but also familiar love, friendships, love for oneself. I also know that this book has kind of become synonymous with performative reading. I don't want to go too deep into this now because this is not really the point of this video, but for example, the book Leo has a really great video about performative reading, and All About Love also features in that video, and she explains really well the concept of performative reading and the trend of making yourself seem more cool and more well-learned and more feminist by reading books like All About Love. However, I think that equating this book with the internet meme and thereby discounting the meaningfulness of this book is a huge mistake to make. Because apart from her thoughts on love, I also very much enjoy Bell Hooks' general social commentary. There is incredible depth and complexity in this book and in her thoughts that you could really just lose yourself in. Basically, on each page, I find something that either resonates with me or puts my thoughts into perspective or enhances my own thinking in a different way, or explains, not necessarily explains, but maybe articulates the feelings that I have been feeling but haven't been able to articulate in words yet. Obviously, I am enjoying exploring the different themes of love and Bell Hooks' different thoughts on love, but I am also enjoying the fact that this is not just a book about love, this is also social commentary. So, for example, I have a quote about consumer culture here. Consumer culture in particular encourages lies. Advertising is one of the cultural mediums that has most sanctioned lying. Keeping people in a constant state of lack in perpetual desire strengthens the marketplace economy. Lovelessness is a boon to consumerism. And lies strengthen the world of predatory advertising. Our passive acceptance of lies in public life, particularly via the mass media, upholds and perpetuates lying in our private lives. I am just about 1/3 of the way through, actually. I am not even... I've only read 4 chapters so far. I'm on chapter 5, which is going to be about spirituality and divine love. So I really want to take my time with this and digest all of her thoughts and give them a space in my heart and give them a space in my mind and take my time to process them. That's all the books for this video. After this, I definitely cannot say that the romance genre is not for me. I feel like I still had some hits and some misses, and that probably comes from the fact that I do not really have an overview of the romance genre as a whole. The books that I read are definitely not representative of the entirety of the romance genre and its subgenres. So I recognize that there are things that I am missing, and there are books that I would potentially love even more. I just don't know about them. I think I am going to return the universe to its usual equilibrium and read either something sci-fi or something fantasy next. If you stayed until the very end of this video, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate your attention, and maybe I will see you in the next one. Bye!